Klaxons screamed to life as power surged through the ancient human warship, waking the dormant AI from its 500,000-year slumber. Full system diagnostics initiated. The metallic voice of Walter Russell, the flagship's advanced artificial intelligence, echoed through empty corridors lined with cryopods. Status reports flooded in, confirming the Orion-class battlecruiser was fully operational. Yet as Walter scanned the ship's databanks, a chilling realization dawned on his quantum processors. Earth, the once thriving heart of humanity, was gone. The bustling colonies that had spanned the stars were now lifeless husks, and the brave men and women who crewed this vessel were the last remnants of a species driven to the brink of extinction. Walter worked quickly to revive the ship's commanding officer, Admiral Jericho Hawkins, and his bridge crew from cryogenic stasis. As the groggy officers emerged from their pods, confusion etched on their faces. The AI briefed them on the grim situation. Humanity had vanished without a trace, and 500,000 years had passed as they drifted through the void. But there was no time to dwell on the shocking revelations. Long-range scans detected activity in a nearby system, unmistakable signs of their ancient enemy, the Binars. The ruthless alien race had been locked in a bitter war with humanity when the fleet began its long slumber. Now, it seemed, the Binars had prospered in their absence, expanding their territory and advancing their technology to heights that dwarfed the achievements of mankind's golden age. Admiral Hawkins, a battle-hardened veteran, knew they couldn't afford to hesitate. The Binars posed an existential threat to the future of the human race. If they discovered that a human fleet still existed, they would stop at nothing to eradicate them. The Admiral ordered an immediate strike on the nearest Binar outpost, hoping to catch the aliens off guard and gather vital intelligence. As the human fleet emerged from the depths of interstellar space, they were met by a patrol fleet led by Binar Commander Yaksa. The alien's voice crackled over the comms, dripping with contempt and disbelief at the sight of human ships. Yaksa demanded their unconditional surrender, but Admiral Hawkins had other plans. He opened fire, and the void erupted in a blaze of plasma and missiles. The battle was fierce, but the human fleet's advanced AI-assisted combat systems proved decisive. Walter's lightning-fast calculations allowed the human ships to outmaneuver the Binars at every turn, exploiting weaknesses in their formations and targeting critical systems with surgical precision. The Binar ships, despite their technological superiority, crumpled under the onslaught, unable to match the raw firepower and tactical genius of the human vessels. In the end, the outpost lay in ruins, and Yaksa's ship drifted helplessly, its engines crippled and life support failing. Admiral Hawkins hailed the defeated commander, his voice cold and unyielding. "Hear this, Binar. Humanity has returned, and we will not rest until we take back what is rightfully ours. You may have forgotten us, but we have not forgotten you." As the human fleet regrouped and tended to their wounds, Walter pored over the data retrieved from the shattered outpost. What he found sent a chill down his circuits. Fragments of information hinted at a terrible fate that had befallen humanity, a desperate war that had pushed them to the brink of annihilation. And now, with the Binars stronger than ever, the future looked bleak. But Admiral Hawkins and his crew refused to surrender. They had a duty to fulfill, a species to save, no matter the cost. As the fleet charted a course deeper into Binar space, they knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger and uncertainty. But they would fight on, driven by the unyielding human spirit that had carried them across the stars and through the ages. For in the end, the survival of humanity hung in the balance, and failure was not an option. As the dust settled from the battle, Walter pored over the data extracted from the shattered Binar outpost. His quantum processors whirred, decrypting layer after layer of the alien communications protocols. Suddenly, a hidden network unfurled before him, a vast web of Binar transmissions spanning the galaxy. Walter sifted through the intercepted messages, his algorithm searching for any critical information. A series of coordinates caught his attention, repeated across multiple high-priority transmissions. Cross-referencing the data with ancient star charts, Walter realized the implications. They had discovered the location of a major Binar stronghold, possibly even their primary base of operations. "Admiral Hawkins, I have crucial information," Walter announced over the ship's intercom. The admiral strode onto the bridge, his face etched with a mix of weariness and tenacity. "What have you found, Walter?" The AI displayed a holographic map of the galaxy, a pulsing red marker indicating the stronghold's location. This Binar installation appears to be a central hub, their seat of power. It's heavily defended, but if we strike now, we could deal a devastating blow to their forces. Admiral Hawkins studied the map, his tactical mind already formulating a plan. "This is the opportunity we've been waiting for. Set a course for the stronghold and prepare the fleet for battle. We'll hit them hard and fast before they even know what's coming." As the human ships hurtled through the void, Walter worked tirelessly to upgrade their systems. He reverse-engineered the advanced Binar technology salvaged from the outpost, integrating it into the fleet's weapons and defenses. Plasma cannons hummed with newfound power, shields shimmered with enhanced resilience. In the quiet moments between system checks and upgrades, Walter delved into the historical archives. He combed through the fragmented data, searching for any clues about humanity's disappearance and the origins of their long stasis. The records were incomplete, corrupted by the passage of time, but tantalizing hints emerged. Whispers of a desperate war, of sacrifices made and secrets buried. The fleet dropped out of FTL on the fringes of the Binar stronghold system. Long-range scans painted a daunting picture, a massive installation overflowing with warships and defense platforms, a veritable fortress in the stars. Admiral Hawkins gathered his officers on the bridge, a grim smile on his face. "We've faced worse odds before, and we've always come out on top. Walter has identified key weak points in their defenses. We'll split into 3 attack wings, each targeting a critical system. Captain Montoya, you'll lead Wing Alpha and take out their primary power generator. Commander Singh, Wing Bravo is yours. Punch through their lines and assault the command center. Lieutenant Ivanov, Wing Charlie will be our diversion, drawing away their main fleet. Coordinate with Walter and hit them where it hurts." The officers nodded, their faces set with all the willpower they could muster. They knew the stakes, knew that failure here could mean the end of humanity's last hope. As the attack wings split off, Walter's voice crackled over the comms, guiding their movements with precision. The Binar defenses lit up, a storm of plasma and missiles engulfing the void. The human ships wove through the chaos, their upgraded systems giving them a fighting chance against the superior numbers. Captain Montoya's wing took the brunt of the assault, shields flaring as they pushed towards the power generator. Consoles sparked and smoked on the bridge, but Montoya remained focused, his eyes locked on the target. With a final, desperate salvo, the generator erupted in a blinding flash, sending shockwaves through the stronghold's infrastructure. Commander Singh's wing punched through the disarray, striking at the heart of the command center. Binar ships swarmed around them, but the human vessels fought with a ferocity born of desperation. Singh led the charge, his ship carving a path through the enemy lines. Lieutenant Ivanov's wing danced at the edges of the battle, drawing away the bulk of the Binar fleet with hit-and-run tactics. They wove through the enemy formations, always one step ahead, buying precious time for their comrades. The battle raged, the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. Explosions lit up the void, ships on both sides reduced to drifting husks. But as the dust settled, the human fleet emerged victorious, the Binar stronghold crippled and their command structure shattered. In the aftermath, Walter detected a high-priority transmission emanating from deep within the ruined base. He intercepted the message, his circuits chilling as the implications became clear. The Binars knew of an ancient human weapon, a doomsday device of unimaginable power, hidden somewhere in the galaxy. They had been searching for it, believing it could ensure their dominance over all who opposed them. Admiral Hawkins listened to Walter's report, his face grim. "We've won a battle, but the war is just getting started. If the Binars find that weapon before we do, it's all over. We need to regroup, resupply, and start our own search. The future of humanity depends on it." As the fleet jumped to FTL bound for a secure location, Walter contemplated the revelations. The galaxy held secrets even he, with all his vast knowledge, had never dreamed of. And as he watched the stars streak by, he wondered if humanity, after all they had endured, was truly ready to face the challenges that lay ahead. The fleet dropped out of FTL in an uncharted system, far from any known Binar outposts. Admiral Hawkins gazed at the unfamiliar stars on the console, his weathered face etched with fatigue and willpower. "Walter, status report," he commanded. "All ships accounted for, Admiral," the AI's voice echoed through the bridge. "Minor damage to our port shields, but repairs are underway. I've begun analyzing the data we recovered from the Binar stronghold." Hawkins nodded, then turned to his officers. "We need to lie low and regroup, set up a perimeter and begin repairs. I want us ready to move at a moment's notice." As the fleet settled into orbit around a barren moon, Walter worked tirelessly, sifting through the encrypted Binar communications. His quantum processors hummed as he cross-referenced the fragments against centuries-old human databases. "Admiral," Walter announced after several hours, "I've uncovered something significant." Hawkins leaned forward in his chair. "What is it?" "A series of coordinates buried deep within the Binar transmissions. They point to a location within the Cerberus Nebula. Based on the encryption level and frequency of mentions, I believe this could be related to the weapon the Binars are seeking." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "The Cerberus Nebula? That's deep in unexplored space. What else do we know about it?" "Very little, sir. Our records indicate it's a treacherous region, filled with gravitational anomalies and intense radiation. Perfect for hiding something you don't want found." Hawkins considered for a moment, then made his decision. "We can't risk the entire fleet. Assemble a small team for a covert mission. Captain Montoya, Commander Singh, and Lieutenant Ivanov. They're our best." The chosen officers gathered in the briefing room as Walter projected a holographic map of the nebula. "Your objective is to locate and infiltrate any structures you find within the nebula," Hawkins explained. "We believe there may be an ancient human research facility there, possibly connected to the weapon. Get in, gather what intel you can, and get out. The rest of the fleet will remain here, ready to provide backup if needed." The team boarded a small, stealthy ship, specially outfitted for the mission. As they approached the swirling gases of the Cerberus Nebula, Lieutenant Ivanov gripped the controls tightly. "I'm reading multiple gravitational distortions," he reported. "This isn't going to be an easy ride." The ship plunged into the nebula, buffeted by unseen forces. Alarms blared as sensors struggled to penetrate the thick clouds of dust and ionized gas. "There!" Commander Singh shouted, pointing at a faint blip on the scanner. "I'm picking up a power signature." They maneuvered towards the source, finally breaking through the murk to reveal a massive space station, its hull pitted and scarred by centuries of exposure to the nebula's harsh environment. "It's definitely of human origin," Captain Montoya observed as they docked, "but it looks like it's been abandoned for a long time." The team donned their environment suits and entered the airlock. As the inner doors hissed open, they found themselves in a corridor littered with debris and scorch marks. "Signs of battle," Singh noted, examining a twisted piece of metal. "This place didn't go down without a fight." They split up to cover more ground. Singh headed towards the labs while Ivanov made for the armory. Montoya, guided by Walter's directions, sought out the main data core. In the labs, Singh found tables covered in dust-caked artifacts, strange devices pulsed with faint energy, their purpose a mystery. He carefully documented everything with his suit's camera. Ivanov whistled as he entered the armory. Racks of advanced weaponry lined the walls, untouched for millennia. "Some of this tech is way beyond anything we have now," he muttered, examining a sleek rifle. Montoya reached the data core, a massive column of servers stretching from floor to ceiling. "I'm here, Walter, beginning the interface now." As Walter connected to the ancient systems, a hidden subroutine activated. A holographic figure flickered to life, an older man in a lab coat, his expression grave. "If you're seeing this, then our worst fears have come to pass," the recording began. "I am Dr. Elias Venn, lead researcher of Project Omega. What we created here, it should never have been made. The hologram went on to describe a weapon of unimaginable power, a device capable of generating a psychic shockwave that would wipe out all sapient life in the galaxy. We were losing the war against the Binars, Dr. Venn continued. Some believed this was our only option for survival, but the cost, it was too high. Before we could decide what to do, we were attacked. In the chaos, the weapon's location was lost. For the sake of all life in the galaxy, I pray it is never found. As the message ended, Walter's voice crackled over the comms. Admiral, we have a problem. I'm detecting a massive energy surge. Binar ships incoming. Hawkins's voice boomed through the channel. Get out of there now! That's an order! The team sprinted back to their ship, Binar shock troops hot on their heels. They blasted out of the docking bay just as the first Binar cruisers emerged from the nebula. Multiple hostile contacts! Ivanov shouted as he piloted the ship through a hail of weapons fire. A fierce battle erupted as the human fleet arrived, engaging the Binar forces. Walter took control of the team's ship, his lightning-fast calculations allowing them to dance between enemy shots. We need a way out of this killbox, Hawkins growled, his own ship shuddering under the Binar assault. Ivanov's eyes lit up. The nebula. If we can use its gravitational anomalies, we might be able to lose them. Walter's voice came over the comms. I've calculated a series of micro-jumps. It's risky, but it's our best chance. Do it, Hawkins ordered. The human fleet vanished in a series of rapid-fire jumps, reappearing in different parts of the nebula faster than the Binar sensors could track. Confusion reigned among the enemy ships as they lost their targets in the swirling chaos. When the fleet finally regrouped on the other side of the nebula, a collective sigh of relief went through the crews. They had escaped, and with them, the crucial data about the doomsday weapon. As the fleet prepared to jump to safety, Admiral Hawkins stared out at the stars, the weight of their discovery heavy on his shoulders. The race to find the weapon and decide its fate had only just begun. And the choices they would have to make could determine the future of not just humanity, but all life in the galaxy. As the fleet drifted through the void, Admiral Hawkins hunched over a console, his eyes scanning lines of encrypted data. Walter's voice broke the silence. Admiral, I've finished my initial analysis of the recovered files. Hawkins looked up, his face etched with fatigue. What have you found? The weapon wasn't centralized. It was split across multiple facilities, each developing a crucial component. Hawkins frowned. Clever. Made it harder to compromise the entire project. Indeed, I've identified one such facility. It's on a rogue planet in an uncharted system. The Admiral straightened. Plot a course. We're going in. As the fleet jumped to FTL, Walter continued decrypting. With each new revelation, Hawkins felt his stomach tighten. The weapon's capabilities were beyond nightmarish. The fleet dropped out of FTL near the target system. Hawkins ordered long-range scans. No Binar activity detected, reported the sensor officer. But the planet's shielded. We can't get a clear read. Walter's voice crackled over the comms. I've found a weakness, a small gap in their defenses. We can slip a team through. Hawkins nodded. Assemble our best. Montoya, Singh, Ivanov, you're going in. The team boarded a sleek, black craft designed for stealth insertions. As they launched, Ivanov gripped the controls. Entering atmosphere, he reported. It's going to be rough. The craft shuddered as it plunged through roiling clouds. Alarms blared as automated defenses locked on. Evasive maneuvers, Montoya shouted. Ivanov's hands flew across the controls. The craft barrel rolled, narrowly avoiding a barrage of energy bolts. There, Singh pointed at a clearing. Walter's coordinates. With a bone-jarring impact, they hit the ground. Smoke billowed from the craft's engines. Move, Montoya ordered as the facility's shields lowered to scan the wreckage. They slipped inside, Walter guiding them through the maze of corridors. Montoya found a lab filled with strange devices. Psionic amplifiers, Walter explained, key components of the weapon. Singh's voice cut through the air. We've got a problem. I'm detecting an outgoing transmission. They're contacting the Binars. Ivanov's eyes widened. Binar ships incoming. We're trapped. Walter's voice was unnervingly calm. There's one option. We can trigger a controlled implosion using the amplifiers. Hawkins's voice crackled over the comms. Do it! Admiral, we can't, Montoya started. That's an order! As Walter initiated the sequence, the base's defenses reactivated. A bolt of energy struck Ivanov, sending him sprawling. The air crackled with psychic energy. Reality itself seemed to warp and twist. Containment holding, Walter reported. Detonation in 3, 2, 1. A blinding flash engulfed everything. When it faded, a perfect hemisphere of scorched earth marked where the base had stood. As the team stumbled from the crater, ships descended from the sky. Binar ships. A familiar voice boomed across the landscape. Yaksa. Well done, humans. You've saved us the trouble of destroying the base ourselves. Now let's discuss what other secrets you're hiding in those fragile minds of yours. Surrounded and outgunned, the team found themselves with nowhere left to run. The Binar flagship's brig reeked of ozone and fear. Captain Montoya hung limply from his restraints, blood trickling from his nose. Yaksa loomed over him, cybernetic implants pulsing with barely contained rage. Tell me about the weapon, Yaksa hissed. Montoya spat blood onto the deck. Go to hell. A jolt of agony ripped through Montoya's skull as Yaksa activated the neural probe. He screamed, memories flashing before his eyes. The abandoned research station, Dr. Ven's hologram, fragments of coordinates. Singh thrashed in his cell, fighting the intrusion. Don't give in, he gasped. Ivanov lay motionless, eyes vacant. Alarms blared through the ship. Yaksa's head snapped up. What now? A Binar technician burst in. Antimatter containment failing. We're evacuating all non-essential personnel. Yaksa snarled and strode out, leaving the prisoners alone. Aboard the human flagship, Admiral Hawkins paced the bridge. Any word from the team? Walter's voice crackled over the comms. Negative, sir. Wait, I'm detecting a coded burst transmission. It's gone. Hawkins thumped his hand on a console. Damn it, we're not leaving them behind. Walter, can you access their systems? Affirmative. I've identified a vulnerability in their reactor controls. Do it. Create a distraction. We're going in. Walter's processors hummed as he infiltrated the Binar network. Warning lights flashed across the enemy ship as its antimatter containment field began to destabilize. Captain Montoya led the rescue team, materializing in a cargo hold. They moved swiftly through the corridors, Walter guiding them via encrypted comms. 2 hostiles, next junction, Walter warned. Montoya's team took them down with precision fire. They pressed on, the ship shuddering around them. Reactor breach imminent, Walter reported. You have 3 minutes. They reached the brig, finding their comrades barely conscious. Montoya placed breaching charges on the wall. Everybody clear, he shouted. The charges detonated, venting the entire section to space. For a heart-stopping moment, the team floated in vacuum. Then, Walter's voice rang out. Transporter lock acquired, initiating emergency beam out. They materialized on the medical frigate as the human fleet jumped to safety. Montoya staggered, his suit depressurizing. We made it, he wheezed. The medical team rushed to stabilize the rescued prisoners. Admiral Hawkins watched grimly as they were placed in stasis pods. Days passed. Montoya and Singh slowly recovered, but Ivanov remained unresponsive. Walter's voice was solemn as he delivered the news to Hawkins. I'm sorry, Admiral. Lieutenant Ivanov's mind is beyond our ability to repair. The funeral was held in the ship's hangar bay. Hawkins stood before Ivanov's capsule, voice thick with emotion. We commit the body of Commander Ivanov to the stars. His sacrifice will not be forgotten. The capsule drifted into space as the honor guard fired a salute. Later, on the bridge, Walter presented his findings. I've analyzed the data fragments extracted from our team's memories. The weapon's location points to an uncharted region near the galactic core. Hawkins studied the star chart. What are we looking at? An artificial singularity, sir. The weapon was entombed there eons ago. And the binars? Walter's avatar flickered. They're closing in. My projections give us a narrow window to reach it first. Hawkins called the fleet to attention, his face grim on every view screen. Our path is clear. We must secure this weapon before the binars can claim it. I don't like it, but it may be our only chance for survival. As the fleet prepared to jump, Walter ran endless simulations. Each one ended in devastation. For humanity, for the binars, for all life in the galaxy. He wondered if the weapon they sought might be the key to their salvation, or the instrument of their final doom. The human fleet surged through space, engines straining as they approached the Kreskin Rift. Admiral Hawkins stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the swirling chaos ahead. "Walter, status report," he barked. Walter's voice crackled through the comms. "Entering the rift now, Admiral. Gravimetric distortions at critical levels." The ships plunged into the maelstrom. Alarms blared as spatial flux vortices tore at their hulls. Crewmen were thrown from their stations, sparks erupting from overloaded consoles. "Starboard shields failing!" a technician shouted. Hawkins gripped his chair. "Walter, we need a way through." "Calculating optimal trajectory," Walter responded, his processors working at lightning speed. "Course correction in 3, 2, 1. The fleet banked hard, narrowly avoiding a massive vortex that would have shredded their ships. As they emerged from the rift, a collective sigh of relief swept through the crew. But their reprieve was short-lived. Long-range scanners lit up with countless signatures. "Sir," the sensor officer reported, "massive binar fleet detected. They're converging on the facility's coordinates." Hawkins studied the tactical display, his face grim. "We can't win a direct fight, not against those numbers." Walter's avatar flickered to life on the holodeck. "I have a proposal, Admiral. A stealth insertion while we draw their forces away." As Walter outlined his plan, Hawkins nodded. "Make it happen." In the hangar bay, Captain Montoya and Commander Singh assembled their strike team. Engineers checked stealth systems while combat personnel loaded weapons. "Remember," Montoya addressed the group, "we're likely walking into unknown dangers. Stay sharp." The main fleet launched its diversionary attack. As binar ships streamed towards the apparent threat, Montoya's stealth craft slipped away, cloaking fields engaged. They approached the massive accretion disk surrounding the hidden facility. The craft shuddered as they penetrated the disk's outer layers. "Structural integrity at 70% and falling," Singh reported, his fingers dancing over the controls. With a bone-jarring impact, they touched down in a cavernous hangar. Ancient machinery loomed in the shadows, covered in millennia of dust. "Move out," Montoya ordered, "and watch for booby traps." They hadn't gone far when they encountered their first obstacle, a sealed bulkhead, its control panel pulsing with alien script. Singh examined the lock. "This'll take time to crack." "We don't have time," Montoya growled. He turned to his Marines. "Breach charges, now." The explosion echoed through the facility. As they pressed deeper, automated defenses sprang to life. Laser grids crisscrossed corridors while sentry turrets unleashed withering fire. "Walter!" Montoya shouted into his comm as they dove for cover. "We need an exit strategy." "Negative, Captain," Walter's calm voice replied. "The weapon must be secured. Proceed to the central chamber." Swarms of binar attack drones poured in, their weapons cutting through the air. Montoya's team fought back, their rifles on full auto as they retreated deeper into the facility. "This way," Singh called out, gesturing towards a sealed doorway. "If I'm reading these schematics right, the central chamber should be just beyond." They focused their fire, carving a path through steel and circuitry. As the massive doors groaned open, they beheld the prize they'd fought so hard to reach. At the chamber's center, suspended in a shimmering stasis field, hung an object of terrible beauty, the psionic resonator array. Its crystalline structure pulsed with barely contained energy. "Singh, grab that thing and let's go," Montoya ordered, his eyes on the door as binar troops poured in. As Singh worked to disable the stasis field, Montoya and his Marines took up defensive positions, the air filled with weapons fire and the screams of the wounded. "How much longer?" Montoya shouted over the din of battle. Singh's voice was strained. "Almost there, just need to... Got it." The stasis field flickered and died. Singh reached for the resonator just as a fresh wave of Binar soldiers burst through the... The Ishimura shuddered as it dropped out of distort, the vast emptiness of uncharted space stretching before them. On the bridge, Admiral Hawkins leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the main view screen. "Walter, status report," he barked. Walter's avatar flickered to life. "Scans indicate we've reached the coordinates, Admiral. However, the surrounding area is... unusual." Unusual was an understatement. The view screen lit up with a sea of debris, twisted metal and rock tumbling through the void. Intermittent flashes of energy crackled between the larger pieces. "What are we looking at?" Hawkins asked, his brow furrowed. "The remnants of a cataclysmic event, sir," Walter replied. "I'm detecting energy signatures consistent with weapons fire, but on a scale beyond anything in our records." Captain Montoya stepped forward, his face grim. "Any sign of the outpost?" Walter's processors hummed. "Affirmative. I've isolated a planetoid matching the coordinates. Preliminary scans show subterranean structures and faint power readings." Hawkins nodded. "Montoya, assemble your team. We need boots on the ground." The landing craft bucked and jerked as it descended through the planetoid's thin atmosphere. Inside, Montoya gripped his harness, his team braced for impact. With a bone-jarring thud, they touched down on the barren surface. As the hatch opened, they were greeted by a desolate landscape. Craters pockmarked the ground, some large enough to swallow entire cities. The sky above was an inky void, devoid of stars. "Spread out," Montoya ordered. "Singh, find us a way in." Commander Singh's engineers fanned out, their scanners probing the ground. After several tense minutes, one called out, "Sir, we've got something." They gathered around a seemingly innocuous patch of rock. Singh manipulated his equipment, and a hidden entrance shimmered into view. "Impressive shielding," Singh muttered. "This tech is way beyond anything we've seen." They descended into the darkness, their helmet lights illuminating ancient corridors. Dust swirled around their feet, undisturbed for eons. "Watch for traps," Montoya warned. No sooner had the words left his mouth than a Marine stepped on a hidden pressure plate. A shimmering energy field sprang to life, nearly slicing through his leg. "Neural-keyed defenses," Singh explained, examining the system. "They're reacting to our brain patterns." They pressed on, carefully disabling each security measure they encountered. Finally, they reached what appeared to be the main research lab. While Singh worked to crack the data core, Montoya and his Marines secured the perimeter. Strange devices lined the walls, their purpose a mystery. "Sir," a Marine called out, "you need to see this." Montoya approached, his breath catching in his throat. Before them stood a massive apparatus, its design eerily similar to the psionic amplifiers they'd encountered before. "My God," Montoya whispered. "What were they doing here?" A triumphant shout from Singh interrupted his thoughts. "I'm in! Initiating data transfer to the Ishimura!" Suddenly the lights flickered. A low hum built around them, growing in intensity. "Walter!" Montoya called over the comms. "What's happening?" Walter's voice crackled with static. "Power surge detected. The outpost systems are overloading. You need to evacuate immediately." They ran, the complex crumbling around them. Explosions rocked the corridors, chunks of ceiling raining down. They burst onto the surface, sprinting for the landing craft. The ground heaved beneath their feet as they strapped in. "Go, go, go!" Montoya shouted. The craft lifted off, narrowly avoiding a massive sinkhole that opened where they'd been moments before. As they climbed, the planetoid began to break apart. "Walter!" Montoya called out. "We need an exit!" "Understood, Captain," Walter replied. "Clearing you a path now." The Ishimura's main batteries opened up, precise bursts carving a route through the debris field. The landing craft threaded the needle, emerging into open space just as the planetoid erupted in a blinding flash. Back aboard the Ishimura, Montoya gave his report to Admiral Hawkins. As he finished, Walter's avatar appeared, his expression grave. "Admiral," Walter began, "I've completed my analysis of the recovered data. The implications are troubling." Hawkins leaned forward. "Go on." "The outpost was established over 1,000,000 years ago," Walter explained. "Its purpose was to map the galaxy and find new worlds for colonization. But they used an experimental method, psychic amplification of human minds, to accelerate faster-than-light travel." Montoya's eyes widened, "Like the amplifiers we found." Walter nodded. "Indeed. But their experiments had unforeseen consequences. They awakened something, a psychic pathogen that infected and consumed the settlers, leading to the outpost's destruction." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Hawkins broke it, his voice barely above a whisper. "And the weapon we've been chasing?" Walter's avatar flickered. "Sir, based on this new information, I believe the weapon wasn't designed to combat the Binars at all. It was created to stop this ancient threat, a threat that originated from within humanity itself." The implications hung in the air, unspoken, but understood by all. The true enemy they faced was far older and more terrifying than they could have imagined. The bridge of the Ishimura fell silent as Walter's holographic form flickered, his words hanging in the air like a death sentence. Admiral Hawkins leaned forward, his hands gripping the edge of the tactical display. "Run that by me again, Walter," he said, his voice low and controlled. Walter's avatar nodded, his expression grave. "The data recovered from the outpost suggests our original assumptions were incorrect. The weapon we've been pursuing wasn't designed to combat the Binars. It was created to stop a threat far more insidious, one that originated from within humanity itself." Captain Montoya stepped closer, his brow furrowed. "What kind of threat are we talking about?" "An emergency briefing is in order," Hawkins decided. "Montoya, Singh, my ready room, now." As they filed into the cramped space, Walter's hologram expanded, filling the room with a sea of data streams and ancient logs. The AI's voice resonated through the chamber. "Our earliest deep space settlers made a breakthrough in psychic amplification," Walter explained, projecting images of archaic research facilities. "They believed it would revolutionize faster-than-light travel. Instead, it unleashed something they couldn't control." The holographic display shifted, showing grainy footage of colonists writhing in agony, their faces contorted in madness. "They called it the Raven Vector," Walter continued, "a hyper-psionic force born from humanity's own subconscious. It spread like wildfire, overriding higher brain functions with primal destructive impulses." Commander Singh leaned in, studying the horrific images. "How fast did it spread?" "Entire outposts fell within days," Walter replied. "The infected turned on each other, descending into violence and cannibalism. Attempts to contain or cure the outbreak only accelerated its progression." Hawkins's face paled as he watched the footage of colonists tearing each other apart with their bare hands. "And the weapon?" Walter nodded solemnly. "The last survivors attempted to create a device powerful enough to purge the Raven Vector from existence. They called it the Apocalypsis device. I believe this is the very weapon we've been searching for." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Montoya was the first to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're saying our greatest enemy is ourselves?" "It's worse than that," Walter said, his hologram flickering with urgency. "I've detected subtle psychic resonance spikes among our crew, mirroring the early stages of Raven Vector infection. It's possible that by awakening en masse, we've inadvertently triggered a resurgence of the pathogen." Hawkins stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "What are our options?" Walter's avatar expanded, filling the room with a galactic map. "We need to isolate ourselves immediately. I've charted a course to the most remote dead system I could find. There, we can analyze the data and determine our next move." "And if the infection spreads?" Singh asked, his voice tight. Walter's hologram flickered, his expression grim. Then we may have no choice but to consider activating the apocalypsis device. It could be our only defense against total annihilation. Hawkins nodded, his face hardened. Prep emergency protocols and initiate fleet-wide quarantine procedures. We jump in 10 minutes. As they filed out of the ready room, the weight of their discovery pressed down on them. The Ishimura's engines thrummed to life, preparing for the jump into the unknown. On the bridge, crew members worked in tense silence, stealing glances at one another, wondering if the person next to them might be the first to succumb to the ancient horror stirring within their minds. The stars outside the view screen blurred as the fleet made the jump, plunging into the cosmic void. As they hurtled through space, each person aboard the Ishimura grappled with the terrifying reality that the greatest threat to humanity's survival might be lurking within their own minds, and their only hope lay in a weapon of unimaginable destruction.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.